chair recognizes himself for 5 minutes for an opening statement. Welcome to today's hearing before the Subcommittee on Environment. This year, we've revisited some of our country's most important environmental laws and confronted emerging challenges in protecting our environment and promoting a regulatory climate that encourages innovation and economic growth. Among other things, we've identified shortcomings with the administration of the Toxic Substance Control Act that delayed newer, safer chemistries from reaching consumers, explored opportunities to revitalize brownfield sites for crucial infrastructure projects, evaluated the state of technologies to improve our recycling systems, and passed common sense Clear Air Act reforms. Today, we're examining EPA's decision last year to designate two PFAS chemistries, PFOA and PFAS, as hazardous substance under the Comprehensive Environmental Response, Compensation and Liability Act, also known as CERCLA, or the Superfund Law. CERCLA was enacted in 1980 to facilitate the cleanup of the most contaminated sites around the country and to establish a scheme to hold liable for cleanup costs the parties responsible for that contamination. Superfund imposes strict and joint several liability on parties. In other words, a responsible party could be responsible for the entire cost to clean up a contaminated site, even if its contribution to the pollution was minimal. CERCLA excludes exemptions as well as defenses to liability for certain parties, such as bona fide prospective purchasers and innocent landowners, as they are referred to. However, in the context of the hazardous substance designations for PFOA and PFAS, there are concerns that existing exemptions and defenses may not adequately protect a class of parties commonly known as passive receivers who did not manufacture or use PFOA or PFAS, but may have acquired, used, or disposed of material containing these chemicals. Today, we will examine the impacts of potential liability for PFAS contamination on these entities. Congress has clarified and expanded liability protections before, such as by passing the Small Business Liability Relief and Brownfields Revitalization Act of 2002. We will consider how concerns about PFAS liability may deter a range of economic activities and whether changes to CERCLA or other legislative action are needed. Additionally, at our March hearing on reauthorization of the Environmental Protection Agency's Brownfields program, we discussed the tremendous potential of the estimated 450,000 brownfield sites in our country for housing important infrastructure such as power generation, semiconductor manufacturing facilities, and data centers. We hope to examine whether concerns about liability for PFAS hinder the redevelopment of these sites. To this end, we welcome Susan Bodine, who previously served as Assistant Administrator for the Office of Solid Waste and Emergency Response at EPA during the George W. Bush administration, and then as Assistant Administrator for the Office of Enforcement and Compliance Assurance in the first Trump administration, in addition to senior staff roles in both the House and Senate. We're also joined by Lawrence Falby, Chair of the International Council of Shopping Centers Environmental and Land Use Policy Committee. Mr. Falby will share his experience on how potential PFAS contamination impacts real estate transactions for those seeking to reuse those sites. Next, Emily Donovan joins us as co-founder of Clean Cape Fear, a grassroots community advocacy organization focused on the presence and impact of certain PFAS in communities. We also welcome Tracy Meehan, who represents the American Water Works Association and served as EPA Assistant Administrator for Water, also during the George W. Bush administration. I thank all of our members and witnesses for being here, and I look forward to today's discussion.